Good morning, everybody. Really appreciate you making time for this session. Last year when I spoke at this event, I introduced Tree Equity Score, which was a new tool that we had recently launched. This year I want to dive deeper. I want to get beyond the number and look into how do you actually achieve tree equity? How do you increase your tree equity score? We spent the last several years building a whole toolbox of staff expertise, initiatives, free resources, and finance mechanisms that can help you get there. So I'll walk through some of that today, and hopefully you can use some of it in your own work. Please feel free to reach out to me or someone on our team if you feel like there's an opportunity to collaborate. Now, just for some context, American Forest is the oldest national conservation organization in the country. We've been around since 1875. And most notably for this conversation, we've been doing urban forestry for over 100 years of that work. So that includes 1920s, developing the first modern arboricultural standards, the 30s, the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression, organizing the field of urban forestry in the 60s and 70s, advocating for the creation of the Forest Service's Urban and Community Forestry Program in the 80s, and then in the 90s, pioneering satellite image analysis technology. Today, we are all in on two categories of work. One is tree equity on the urban side, and the other is resilient forests on the rural side. Both of these programs use the same impact model. We have movement building components to our work where we build and manage coalitions and networks, advocate for public policy. We do place-based partnerships where we get in the weeds with partners, really identify their needs, opportunities, and barriers, and then have an innovation lab where we're able to take chances, make mistakes, develop new tools and initiatives that really help address some of those barriers. So what is tree equity? This is a term we coined about 5 years ago now, but it points to a systemic issue that goes back generations and people have been working on for many years beyond that. But at core is just synthesizing this reality that a map of tree cover in cities is too often a map of income and race. Our own analyses found that communities within the top 20 percentile of poverty had 36% less tree canopy cover than the wealthiest 20 percentile. Likewise, communities of color had 45% less tree canopy cover than those that were 80% or more white people. So what this means is a life and death difference. Duke estimates that there's about 12,000 heat-related deaths in the US every year currently, and that could get up to 100,000 by the end of this century without an intervention. You can find on my LinkedIn page, there's a study that just came out about European cities. If they can increase their average from today's 15% to 30%, they can reduce heat-related deaths by about 40%. So this is a life-saving infrastructure that we are working in. I looked across Florida, a bunch of different cities in Princeton's Climate Central tool, and they all point to the most southern part of Texas for what the temperatures will be like by the end of this century. So that's looking at about a 7-degree increase across the board in Florida. That changes a lot more than 7 degrees might seem. And this concept's gotten a lot of traction lately. We've had unprecedented momentum. I think urban forestry as a field has been mainstreamed in ways that it never has before. But that also raises, the expectation on us. How do we actually pay off the problem we are identifying exists and needs to be taken care of? Anyone who's worked behind the shovel knows that 500 million trees is an incomprehensibly large number, but it's important to remember when we're talking about infrastructure, this is a scale that policymakers, funders, they're used to dealing in. They're used to dealing in these massive numbers, and you can see all the massive benefits from that come out. So we have to really get comfortable as a field thinking of our work as an infrastructural level undertaking. So to get there, we developed this change model. Nothing really groundbreaking here, but just to give you a sense of the categories we deploy our tools in: building partnerships, planning guided by science, advocating and funding, planting and restoring forests, and then communicating and replicating. And then you can see our suite of initiatives, tools that we deploy in each of those categories. So I'll be walking through a number of these today, not all of them, but a number of them so that you can get a sense of what we have to offer and support your work with. So it starts with that number. It starts with Tree Equity Score. It's now in over 150,000 neighborhoods nationwide, over 400 cities and towns across the continental U.S. We are currently expanding into Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and Alaska, as well as our first two international ones in Toronto and the UK. And it's a very simple metric, a 0 to 100 scale. 100 means you have full tree equity. It's not an area where you need priority investment right now. And the lower the score is, the more investment is needed. And each neighborhood score at the census block group level is analyzed, including income data, employment, surface temperature, race, age, looking at extreme young and extreme old, and then health, which includes cardiovascular illness and respiratory illness. And then that's combined with the tree canopy data and population density. We're not expecting Jacksonville to have the same tree canopy goals as New York City. So if you click on the municipal report for any city, there's also a state report and a federal congressional district report. You can find these storytelling tools. This is really to help you speak to funders when you're advocating for your budgets every year, when you're going after foundations, when you're talking to residents on the street. You can see a very clear story between lack of tree canopy cover as the percentage of people in poverty increases in Orlando. And we have two apps that you can use on this. One is the National Explorer that I just went through. This is free for everybody. And then on the right is the Tree Equity Score Analyzer, which is a tool we built for a specific metropolitan region or perhaps state. And it's co-created with local stakeholders. We have a whole engagement process. We incorporate local data. It just gets down to that parcel level, has much more refined usage, and you can do much more targeted scenario planning and tracking progress over time. Okay, so let's talk about how do we actually fund this work? Now that you know that you've identified the situation you have to address. A lot of our work at American Forest is advocating for urban forestry across a bunch of different agencies. We're trying to take the pressure off the Forest Service from being the sole supporter, really thinking of housing and transportation, energy, just wherever trees can make the argument for supporting their outcomes. So we had a big win, as I'm sure most of you are aware of, with the IRA budget. We were able to really make a strong case for $1.5 billion investment. And this money is now in the process of being distributed. The state level proposals are due later this month. And then there'll be supposedly a round of funding for cities, tribes, nonprofits to pursue. The Department of Transportation also has funding that you can tap into, particularly for economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. These can be used for complete streets, multi-use trails, greenways, natural infrastructure, tree canopy assessments, whatever you need. So there's a lot of opportunity in the transportation right-of-ways for that. Likewise, the Environmental Protection Agency has $3 billion in environmental and climate justice block grants that can include trees. None of these two categories are dedicated just to trees, but trees can be incorporated into grant opportunities. We also help run the 1T U.S. chapter with the World Economic Forum. The basic idea here is that you can make a pledge, nonprofits, governments, corporations. We have over 50 billion trees pledged so far, and that includes, restoring existing, maintaining existing forests, and the categories are wide. It's not just the planting initiative. It's about taking care of the forest and optimizing it for climate outcomes and health outcomes. And urban forestry is included in this. You can see workforce development on there, nurseries. So you can make pledges across all these categories. And why you want to make a pledge? Well, it puts you in a realm, raises your profile with big funders, with movers and shakers in the corporate world who are looking for projects to invest in. It puts you in a community of practice. There's regular webinars and check-ins, opportunities to share best practices and learn from one another. And then, really, how do you mobilize and secure that funding and move forward? A current opportunity open that you might be interested in is this uplink from the World Economic Forum. You can get your projects into this open innovation platform and really connect with investors, corporate partners, and experts that can really help you advance it and hopefully secure funding and technical expertise on that. Another opportunity for funding that American Forest has helped get off the ground and scale is city forest credits. They're an independent nonprofit based in Seattle, but this is a great opportunity for you to really start financing your urban forest. So each carbon credit also has stormwater quantification, air quality, and energy usage. You can submit for planting if you're doing planting project or protection. Like there might be a forested area that has been there for generations, but nothing is technically keeping it from being turned into a tennis court or something of that nature. If you put a layer of protection on that, it qualifies, and that those benefits can then be monetized. So the first sale just happened last year. First national sale, 1.1 million, is a very promising signal in the market. There's a lot of interest in it from buyers, and $36 a ton. We expect this year's sale, which is currently being promoted, to have a higher dollar per ton value, and there's twice as many credits. So there's a promising market. And the nice thing about this national sale is you can do a project and just roll it up into this national groupings of other projects, and then you don't have to worry about selling that. That gets sold by American Forest and other partners. Lastly, on the financing side is these impact investing analyses we are doing with Quantified Ventures. And what it does is it looks at every possible opportunity to fund the urban forest in a specific location, in a specific city or region. So we're looking at the healthcare industry, property values, energy savings, just as looking at all the values and then really trying to find those opportunities where we might be able to partner with another industry and get them to fund and or finance some of the work we need to do that directly benefits them. All right, so you have your analysis, your data with True Equity Score. You have some financing to get started. You have to build those partnerships, right? You have to build coalitions. We've helped do this in some of our deep dive cities. Phoenix, there's over 50 organization roundtable throughout the greater metro area that's really been successful in securing city council budgets and mayoral budgets, and all built around setting a really aggressive tree equity goal across the city. They are focused initially on planting 100 cool corridors, which are mile-long stretches of strategic areas where people walk or commute on foot, bike trails, that sort of thing. Yeah, the goal here is really, as Phoenix heats up, to keep it a place where people aren't trapped inside all day, where they can move outside. Likewise, in Detroit, we have a 5-year commitment, working deep. We have staff embedded in the city there to plant initially 75,000 trees, train and place over 500 residents in full-time jobs, and really establish that long-term maintenance of the tree canopy cover and monetize those benefits to get to that $30 million budget that this project entails. Can't do anything without the community. A big part of our work, we have 2 staff experts that can help you with community engagement, really building that trust. We have to take seriously the fact that urban forests have historically sometimes been weaponized, used against communities of color, lower income communities. There's been disinvestment over the years in a lot of communities where people just they have nothing against trees, but they worry about new trees coming in when existing trees aren't being taken care of. And so how do you address those concerns, really build trusting relationships? So coming out later this year, late spring, will be this community action guide that we're developing that it has a whole framework for identifying where existing interests align, developing priorities, assessing where the community assets are that can help with the work, and where the gaps are, where new resources might be needed. And so you have this coalition, you have community buy-in. It's important to plan. How do you actually deploy what you're trying to do? So in addition to the tree equity score, we help develop these tree species vulnerability assessments and species selection guides. We do this with NIACS, the Northern Institute of Applied Climate Science, which is part of the U.S. Forest Service. And basically, what they're doing is looking out 50 years at the projected climate situation in that timeline, and then looking at the tree species and what species today will be viable in those future climates. What trees should we be propagating in nurseries and planting today, and making sure to maintain that might be better suited, and what ones should we be phasing out. So these, you can reach out to me or someone on our team or NIACS directly about doing an analysis for your city. We also on VibrantCitiesLab.com is the Climate and Health Action Guide that we developed with NIACS and the University of Washington, Kathy Wolf. And basically, this is a planning tool to develop a strategy that optimizes your urban forest for climate outcomes, both adaptation and direct mitigation, and public health outcomes. And so it takes you through this process where you can see here defining, assessing the situation, evaluating, identifying, monitoring. It's really, and it's a choose your own adventure situation where you can choose your own strategy based on your needs. This is not prescriptive. It's to give you different avenues that work best for your situation, your funding needs, your own goals that you're trying to set in your community. And so this guide is perfect for urban community foresters, for people who work in public health professions, climate and sustainability planners, landscape architects. So it's designed not just for urban foresters, it's designed for our allied professions. The Forest Service adapted a version of this into a peer-reviewed publication, and you can see it there. You can download that resource there. It goes into full depth, and it's all free. Okay, so now getting trees in the ground, getting trees maintained. You need a workforce to do that. A big part of our urban forestry work is our career pathways initiative, and it has three main components. We have a tree care industry workforce shortage right now. A predominantly white population is aging out and not being replaced. And so what we're trying to do is diversify our field, really make people feel welcome in our field with pre-employment training programs, and then also direct placement, placing people directly in full-time jobs and providing 6 months of wraparound support to help them get some paychecks under themselves, help them get established, and then working with the employers. Our field has a long history of being able to recruit more diverse people into the jobs, but they don't feel comfortable. A lot of times women don't feel comfortable. There's a huge turnover within that first year. So how do we update employer cultures, employer policies to really make everyone feel like they have a place on the team? As part of that is this free curriculum that you can download from our website. It does soft skill training, workforce prep, as well as hard arboricultural skills. It's been you can pick and choose. You can adapt it as you see fit, but it just walks you through a process of what it takes to do the correct training for urban forestry. And a key part of that is really introducing people to our field. The analysis done several years ago now found that a huge barrier we have is people just don't know our field exists. And so We've developed this curriculum. Dr. Ebony Hall, if you're familiar with her, is behind this. She's the mastermind of this, and it really introduces, it's designed primarily for like a high school age or college age. It's a project-based curriculum that lets you role play different careers, explore a wide range of careers in the urban greening space. And that's all free to you too. And likewise is this Career Pathways Exploration Guide on Vibrant Cities Lab that walks you through how you optimize, that introducing, recruiting new individuals into our field. Lastly, in addition to planting projects that we do, we have these Roots of Rock nurseries that really optimize for climate. They look at, scientists go out and extract genetics from trees that withstood a pest or disease infestation. And then we propagate those genetics into new seedlings and grow them in nurseries. Our first ones are on underutilized land in Detroit, and we're standing one up with the Natural Areas Conservancy on Staten Island in New York. But this is a great model, again, in partnership with the Forest Service, as well as the music industry, to propagate a resilient forest for the future. And so here again is our suite of tools and resources that are available to you, that we deploy, that we have staff. We have about 20 people on staff now working on urban forestry in one way, shape, or form. They're all available for you to speak with and engage with. If you're interested in collaborating on IRA proposals, we're happy to have a conversation with you about that if you think we might be valued on that front. And then I've mentioned a few times, but just to make sure, this was a resource we developed several years ago now. We're in the process of updating it, but it's still a great hub of urban forestry best practices, a whole suite of guides, over 500 technical resources that are free and available to you. So really appreciate your time, and I'll be available for questions. Thank you.